Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Sim and Stitches again. So on today's tutorial, I'll be teaching you how I made this beautiful dress that you're seeing on your screen. So I'll teach you how I'll walk you through how I made it. Now the focus of this tutorial is going to be on the decorative pleats that it has at the front. So it has a lot of features. It has the puff sleeve, it has the box pleats, and also has a decorative stitch at the front. So I'm going to be focusing on the decorative stitch in this tutorial. All right, so the first thing I did was to go ahead and mark the top part of the skirt of the dress. So it has the skirt part and the top part. Now the combination of the skirt and the top gives you a dress. So for the down part, it is a box split, but for the top part, so that's what I'm doing now. So I went ahead to mark my length measurement for my top. So I stopped at the waist, the what you call the half length or the natural curve. So now I had to use a marker to identify the marks on my fabric because the fabric has a stretchy texture, so it became difficult for me to use a chalk. So that was why I had to use the marker. Now I went on to mark out all the length measurements for my top, and then I marked the shoulder, I marked the armhole. I have a video on how to draft the top pattern. I want you to watch that video to have a clearer understanding. Now for the neck part of this top, because it's going to be having a collar, a shirt collar, I made it 2 inches deep and 2 inches wide. 2 inches deep and 2 inches wide. I also reduced the half length by 1 inch because the fabric stretches on this grain that I'm folding. So it stretches on both grain actually. So I reduced it because of the elasticity of the fabric. I reduced the length measurement. I also reduced the width measurement. So while I was taking the round measurement, I reduced it with 1 inch because it stretches a lot. And then the same measurement that I used for cutting the front is what I used in cutting the back. I didn't add any zipper allowances. I didn't add any zipper allowances because there won't be zip at the back. This fabric stretches, so it will be easier for the client to wear it. So that was what I did here. So I went on to place the front piece on the next fabric to cut the back piece. You can see there. So now I chose to use the freehand method because I wanted to save time. I was running out of the deadline for delivering this particular dress. So I needed to just save my time. So I used the freehand method. In your own case, you can decide to use the back pattern method to help you if you have enough time on your sleeves. So I went on. All right, so this is what I'm saying, that the elasticity of the fabric is really much. So that was what I did there. That was why I had to remove. You can see I didn't had any zipper allowance. All right, so you go ahead and cut your back piece just as you have cut the front piece as well. Now while I'm cutting the armhole for the back, you can see what I did. I didn't go in because it is the back part of the cloth, so I didn't go in. And as well, the neck piece, I made it the neck part, I made it just 1 inch, 1 inch for the neck depth, the same neck width 2 inches, but then the neck depth was 1 inch because I'm making a shirt collar. So I didn't want the back to be too low, so that was why I used just 1 inch. So the next thing I did now was to go ahead to cut my sleeve pattern. So I cut out the fabric that I needed for the sleeve. So this sleeve is going to be having a puff and a bit of pleats at the shoulder and at the arm. So I just went on to cut the fabric that I was going to use for both sleeves, the right and the left sleeves. So I cut the two together and I drafted it. Now this is going to be having volume. That is why you have it this much. I have a video on how to cut the basic sleeve pattern, out of which you can alter to get any type of sleeve that you desire. So I'll be adding the link to that video on my description box on this video. I want you to watch it to have basic understanding. I'm not going to focus on the sleeves for this video because that is not the aim of this video. So just watch this. Now, I have tons of videos on my channel. Go on and watch them. You will have more understanding on the dress pattern that I'm cutting. Okay, so after drafting the sleeves, I went on to cut the fabric that I was going to be using for my decorative pleats. You know, that's the focus of this video. So now I cut the length of the fabric to be the exact length of my top pattern, that is the top, the length for the upper part of the dress. And then I made the width to be 20 inches, 20 inches for the width, and the half length for the length. Now this piece of fabric, I went on to fold 1 inch in for each side. I folded in 1 inch for the right side, and I folded in another 1 inch for the left side. And then that's going to be the base of my pleat. That's the first layer. Then after doing that, I held it down with my pin, and then I went on to fold another 1 inch on the previously folded pleats, so such that I have two pleats down. So I have it folded that way. On the right side as well, I folded another layer of pleats. You can see what I'm doing there. So it's laying on each other. Now the next one, I did a third pleat by folding in another 1 inch. So I folded 1 inch on the previously drafted two pleats. I folded another 1 inch so that I have three pleats on each side. So there's an aisle at the middle, like a 2 inches aisle at the center. So on that aisle, I added buttons, or okay, I wanted to add the button, but then I changed my mind. Now look at what I did here. Very easy to do. You just have to fold in each pleat from each side, one over the other. You fold in 1 inch pleats on each side. Yours can also not, it's not limited to 1 inch. You can make yours to be 2 inches. You can make it to be half inch, depending on whatever design you desire to have. So that was what I did for mine. 1 inch on each side, the right side and the left side. And then I went on to fold another layer on the already folded pleat, such that I had 3 layers all through. You can have more than that. It's not limited to that. It depends on your level of creativity or the what you desire to have. So after that, I held it on with my pin. I took it to the ironing board. I ironed it out to flatten the pleats that I already created. And then after that, I took it to the sewing machine. I flipped open each pleat and I stitched it with a straight stitch. I held it down with a straight pleat. Now look at it, I already done stitching. Now on the top layer, I didn't stitch the top layer because that top layer is what I'm going to be using to hold it on the main fabric. Now after I had already done my decorative pleat, I brought out the front part of my dress. I placed the decorative pleat that I had sewn. I placed it directly on the top part that I'm making. I did it in such a way that it covered the full length of the top part. Now I'm going to be carving out my neck piece because I wanted it to start from the neck area because I'm still going to be adding a collar to the neck. So that was all I did. Very easy and simple to make. This decorative pleat comes out nice on your design when you make them. You can make it on a shirt, you can make it on your blouse, whatever design for kids and also for adults. So it's usually nice. I've seen a couple of it on men clothing too. So it's actually a nice design. Instead of having to buy another accessory, you can save your money and do this if you have enough fabric. So that's just how it is. Don't forget, you fold in each pleat from the right side to the left side. As many pleats that you desire to have on your fabric, you fold it in. So I flipped it to the wrong side in order for me to get the vivid picture of the neckline. So after flipping it, I cut out my neckline and I went on with the other part. So I just stitch, what I did basically was just to stitch the decorative pleats on the top part. Very easy to do. So the next thing I did was to stitch the neck part. So I went on, took it to my sewing machine, and I stitched it at the neck region. So after that, I stitched the down part as well, and then I joined the front with the back piece. I joined it at the shoulder, the front and the back piece. I joined at the shoulder. Took it to my sewing machine. I joined at the shoulder. I also went ahead to cut my collar piece. I attached my collar. At this point, you can see that the collar is already there. So I attached it. I have a video on how to cut a basic shirt collar. I want you to watch that video for understanding on how to cut the collar. So I just went on and proceeded with the remaining parts of this dress. So I was, at this point, I was already done with the top part. I only needed to stitch it at the sides. So I was already done. And then before I stitched it at the side, I went ahead to pleat the down part. So I took the fabric that I had already cut for the down part. I started my work on it. I cut a 2 inches band. So on the waistline, I cut a 2 inches band and I attached to the front and to the back. And also I pleated my box pleat. So this dress has a box pleat. So I pleated my box pleat. I also went onto the sewing machine. I stitched the box pleat. I think I should make a video on how to make a box pleat. I already promised you guys how to make a knife pleat. So now I'm also promising a video on how to make a box pleat. In fact, I'm going to be doing the pleat series. Yes, this will be nice. I'll do a pleat series so that you guys can have understanding on all the types of pleats that we have and how to make them. All right, so after I was done with my pleats, I went on to stitch the sleeves. So I stitched the sleeves as well to the main fabric, and I went on to sew it on each side. So the front and the back, I stitched them together to give me a complete dress. And that was all, guys. I was already done with this dress. It came out so nice and beautiful. You can see that. Very beautiful. So I added my velvet bias on the collar to make it more beautiful, just to accessorize. All right, guys, thank you very much for staying tuned with me on this video. I promise you to come again with a beautiful tutorial. Kindly like this video, share and subscribe. Guys, please get me to 500 subscribers. Thank you very much. Catch you guys. Bye.